Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Chris, this is 4K Motoring, and today we've got just a little update for you guys about things going on in the channel. So I did not bring you guys along with me a couple weeks ago when I took the Ducati out to the mountains with a couple of friends. We ended up doing about 650 miles in a day, and I didn't record it. Obviously I forgot the camera. We're gonna do a similar trip this weekend with the Corvette. We're gonna go out to the mountains, up Grandfather Mountain, hit the Diamondback 226A route, see what else we can do out there, just doing a day trip from Raleigh. So that should be pretty cool. I'll definitely have you guys along for that. See how the Corvette does up in the mountains, see the scenery. Should be pretty cool. Beyond that, we've had a couple other things going on that have kept the videos from being, as frequent as they were before. I've been doing a lot of work around the house itself. That's taken a lot of my time. We do have another channel about that specifically. I'll link that here and see how that's going. But as far as the vehicle stuff goes, we do have a lot of projects that are in the works. So pretty soon I think you'll see some pretty significant changes. And so this morning we're just doing a little bit of prep for that trip to the mountains this weekend. I've got some oil I need to pick up. I'll show you an issue I'm having with the Corvette right now that's not a game stopping sort of emergency, but is something that will need to be addressed pretty soon. So we're gonna go to AutoZone, pick up some parts for that. We're gonna get the Corvette cleaned up, make sure we go through all the pressures and fluids today. Make sure everything's good to go for this weekend. Obviously, it's always good to do before you go out of town. Don't want to get stuck or have something adverse happen because you're just lazy. So we'll make sure we go through that today, and hopefully it's a pretty smooth process. As a quick update to the dash cam video, so the install went very well. I'm very happy with how it's mounted and positioned. I'm experiencing a weird issue. I know it's just got a 16 gigabyte memory card, so fairly small, but it is shooting only in 1080. It has different sensors and different ways to mark files as protected. So if an event happens or it detects a crash, those files won't be automatically overwritten as the files loop around. I'm getting messages that the files are being overwritten, because the protected files are being overwritten because the memory card is full, which confuses me a bit because I thought protected meant they weren't going to be overwritten. So that's something I'm gonna have to figure out. I don't know if that's an issue with these with the Kenwood units here, or if it's just something I'm doing wrong, which is possible, but that's something I felt I would share since I talked about it last time. So now we're on our way over to Advanced Auto. Like I said, definitely need to pick up some extra oil to bring with me. I'll show you guys the leak that's going on. Shouldn't have to add any during this trip, but it might. Want to get some brake fluid as well. Might do a brake fluid flush while we're doing this, just to help things out. And with that, I think that'll probably be good for today. So normally I wouldn't bring the truck out just to do these little small errands. I'd probably take the motorcycle. One thing that happened when we were doing the bathroom renovation that you guys saw is in progress, I did slam my foot into something and break a couple toes. So I am working through that. Shouldn't really cause an issue tomorrow with the Corvette, but at least with the motorcycle I didn't want to have, broken feet while we're trying to put them down on the bike. So taking the truck today. Nothing wrong with that, just uses a little bit more gas than I would normally like to use for such a small event. Okay, that was a successful stop. We got some extra oil, did get some brake fluid as well, and a couple microfiber towels as we were running low on those. Not a big deal. So I know I brought it up a couple times so far. I'll go ahead and link over top of each other here the dash cam video as opposed to the 4K video coming from the GoPro here, to let you guys see just what it's outputting, how it compares, that sort of thing. Alright guys, so I'll kind of show you what's going on here. So the bottom of the oil case, the drain pan, has a little bit of an issue, and you'll see where it's been parked for a while. Got a pretty healthy oil leak that I think is getting worse. So when I bought this car a couple months ago, I changed the oil pretty quickly and discovered that the drain plug had been at some point stripped out of the car. There was a Healy coil placed inside and the drain plug was placed back in. The Healy coil was not the correct thread for the drain plug, so it was just ugged in there, cross-threaded. So not a great seal, and I think it started to back out a little bit. I didn't realize that was going on at the time. Didn't have the time or tools to fix it right then and there, so I just put it back. Hoped it would make it to the next oil change where I'd replace all that. We're kind of halfway in, not even halfway, just a couple months in, maybe 2,000 miles. Leaking pretty good to the point it gave me a low oil warning. So we're gonna go ahead and see what we can do today to address that and at least get it to our next oil change interval. So we're gonna go ahead and pull out this drain plug. It's been sitting for a little while. Wipe it off. You can see we have our little gauge there. Go ahead and reinsert it and pull it back out here. Let's see where we are. We've got a little bit of oil up to the midpoint there. Not a whole lot. Probably could use to add a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and see what we can do about getting that drain plug tightened a little bit more. Make sure there's no leaking around it that can be fixed right now. And then we'll top off the oil here. While we're doing that, we're also going to go ahead and replace this brake fluid. As you guys can see, one, it's got some rainbows in there. Shouldn't really have some rainbows, but it's also very dark. So we're going to go ahead and swap that out. As you know, this has the brake controller up there that is dependent on this stuff. So if we can get it cleaned out and flushed through, all that stuff will last a little bit longer and work a little bit better. Okay, here we're going to get to this brake fluid. You might be able to see this written on there. You might not be able to just because of the coloring. The Corvette calls for .3 brake fluid. What I usually use is the synthetic .3, .4 stuff that works in both. So we're going to be good to go there. Go ahead and set this aside, clean area. So you can see it's kind of rainbowy there, which is not what you want. So I've got my Mighty Vac here that I use for most of these jobs. So we'll go ahead and suck out that fluid to start with from the top, and then we will refill it with clean fluid before we start flushing the wheels. That way we don't have any issues with dirty stuff being sucked into the line. Definitely has some color to it. It doesn't look like it's totally blackened or anything like that, but it definitely could use to be changed. Make sure I get all this out of there. And at this point, we're not going to actuate the brakes or do anything else because we don't want to suck up air into those lines. So we're just going to go ahead and wipe this out and put new fluid in. Alright, we're going to start with a nice clean bottle, a sealed bottle, and a nice microfiber cloth. With that, again, make sure it's a nice clean cloth. We don't want to introduce any contaminants in here. We're going to go ahead and wipe off this area. Make sure everything going in here is clean. Do our best not to get anything introduced into this chamber. All right. Okay, I think I got that pretty well done. So we're going to go ahead and fill up this reservoir with a little bit of nice fresh fluid before we start bleeding the brakes. And as you can see, I mean, that is remarkably clearer than what was in there. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to get color in it, but definitely works better when it's clean. So we're going to sit that on top now that it's clean, just to keep stuff from falling in there, and we'll go back to the back of the car. Alright, so the drain plug is right on this side here on the back of the caliper. It's got a little rubber cover over it you can flip off. It's a 10mm seems to fit, so we're going to go ahead and roll with that. What I've got here is my Mighty Vac attachment that just snaps to the end of it here. So that's a pretty quick. There we go, and that is on. I do always like to have the Mighty Vac coming up and then down. That way the fluid stays backed up on this. You can get a lot of air being sucked through the line, through the threads, if you don't. So this kind of lets you do that final bleed and make sure every drop of air is out of there, as long as this is going kind of an upward direction first. Okay, first wheel is complete. Different vehicles do have different routines for getting the brake spread. Way I normally do it is I start with the wheel farthest from the master cylinder, get as much fluid as I can flush through, and then go from there. Some vehicles require different things. Make sure you check your owner's manual first. So we've got that one done. We're gonna go ahead and go over to the next one and hopefully get all the way around this thing pretty quickly. Okay, so we've got all but our last one done here, so I'll have you follow along. I'll talk you through this one kind of real time. Pretty easy process, really. Make sure you have the right fluid. Make sure you don't let air get sucked in through that reservoir, so make sure you're out here watching it. It is doable with one person, especially with this vacuum equipment. So follow me along here. I'll kind of talk my way through it, and we'll go from there. This is nothing you haven't seen before. We have our jacking puck on our jacking point. Go ahead and lift the car up. A very light car. Alright, from there, pretty easy job, just taking the wheel off. Be careful if these are hot. If they're cold, not a big deal. Pretty lightweight, they come right off. These are the old 17-inch rims that we'll be getting upgraded here in the near future. So again, we have our 10mm nipple right on top. We'll get our vacuum bleeder here. Alright, here's the Mighty Vac. Highly recommend these things. Not sponsored, bought this with my own money. Used it for many years. It is well worth it. So we'll go ahead and route our brake hose over, or our suction hose over. And break this loose. Little tip, if you have a fully enclosed side of the wrench, use that first to break it open. These things can kind of seize a little bit in there, and they're very soft metal. Using an open end box wrench will almost certainly strip them every time. So break them loose with the closed end first, and then go ahead and get them on, get the box end wrench on, and get it working. Okay, we have the fluid coming out pretty clear. Obviously, the more of these you do, by the time you get the last one, it is much shorter than the first one because it's a much shorter line that you're bleeding. The rest of it's all clear fluid. This one's pretty quick, so we're gonna get it bled down. Really, we want our master cylinder to be down to that max line. We don't want it to be too full, and we'll go ahead and shut this off. We should be pretty close. Go ahead and check it here. All right, I think we're about there. The car is on an angle. So we'll go ahead and stop this to begin with. All right, we can see we got our bubbles are all out here, which is what we want. We'll go ahead and tighten that down while we have it there. All right, once that's nice and snug, if we release this right now with no suction, it's going to spill a bunch of fluid, so we'll go ahead and reconnect our suction. Give it just a couple seconds. Now that we have a little bit of suction built, we can go ahead and take this off. And we don't spill anything, it all gets sucked up. So with that, we'll go ahead and put it all back together here and get our boot back on. Quick tip, don't set the tools on your broken toe. Does not feel good. Go ahead and get these on. 2018, we'll swap these out probably at the end of summer here. We'll see how the projects are going and what kind of cash flow we have to do that. Do need new tire pressure sensors as well for these. These are dead and no longer registering. I think that's the only thing that's really not working on this car right now. Okay, we'll drop it down, we'll torque it down, and with that, we're done. All right, guys, one thing I didn't show you here, I just looked at. So under the car, you can see the drain plug under there. A little bit of oil out of it, and you can see it's dripping from the front. So I went under to tighten it, and it just spins. It's firm, it's not coming out, but it just spins. So that Healy coil is unattached, and it's a mess under there. Problem when you get a 20-year-old vehicle, a used vehicle, you never know what you're gonna get. That's what I got. So I need to see if I can find another bottom section to that Batwing oil pan that has a properly threaded drain plug. If I can do that, that'd be optimal. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to just drill and tap what I have there and just find a bolt that fits, that's actually secure, and make that work. So that'll be in a couple thousand miles here. I think it says I got 75% oil life left. So we'll just add a little bit more, make sure it stays topped off, keep an eye on the leaking, and that'll be that. Well, guys, that's my update for today. Hope you guys have found that informative. Hope that gives you a little bit of hope for what's coming up on this channel. Again, anything you want to see, anything you're curious about, feel free to leave a comment. We'll see what we can do to make that happen or answer your questions. Appreciate you guys watching, and stay tuned to 4K.